This is your daytime update as we count down towards the Minister of Finance's budget speech. It is expected to be at 2 p.m. and we'll be bringing that live to you right here on Newzroom Africa, channel 405. But ahead of that budget speech, we continue with our discussions interrogating expectations of what the minister will be delivering to the country. I am joined now by Mamokete Lijane from ABSA Capital to talk about South Africa's debt levels. Very good to have you with us this afternoon. While many are decrying the extremely high levels of South Africa's debts from the IMF as well as other bodies, you, on the other hand, wrote an article not too long ago saying that the situation is not as dire as it is made out to be. Won't you break that down for us?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I wouldn't say I said the situation is not as dire. I actually think made the point that the situation actually is worse than what you would think if you just look at the debt level alone, and that the thing that you should be focusing on is the debt service cost and how those relate, for instance, to the level of revenues that you're getting. And I think I made the point in that article that by 2023, we expect that or at least Treasury expects that debt service costs are going to be 25% of revenue, which is well beyond what is sustainable. And I actually made the point that internationally, the point at which you start to panic is at around 25% of revenue, because now you have to start making the choice between whether you service debt or whether you honor other obligations that the government has.
When you said, and I quote you here, Treasury is awash with cash, and you said that there's some people who said, how can you say that when all indications are that South Africa as a country is broke? And then you went on to explain that. Break that down for us.
Yeah, so, there's a difference between, being wealthy, so to speak. I think I'm just going to use that analogy, versus having a lot of cash. So you can have a lot of cash because you can access a lot of credit card debt. It might be low quality debt at high cost that you get, and you have the cash on hand, but it doesn't mean that your ability to service that debt going forward has changed. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that just because at this point in time, Treasury has a lot more cash than what they thought they were going to have, does not mean that the situation has improved. And we're still on track to face a fiscal crisis in the next few years, unless we implement the structural adjustments or the structural reforms that we've been talking about for the better part of 10 years.
So if you could talk to us about the seemingly successful attempt by Treasury to raise capital and to collect money. How has Treasury managed to do that?
So I think it's partly a function of the global market conditions. Everybody talks about the Fed having put a lot of liquidity into the system. And what normally then happens is that you've got a lot of money sloshing around and it needs to find a home. And if you look at where we are, US Treasuries are at the moment yielding just over 1%. And our comparable 10-year bond is yielding just under 9%. So if you're an investor and you've got a lot of cash, you can either put it in the US and earn 1%, or you can put it in South Africa and earn 9%. Then it becomes a very easy calculation to make. So we've been able to attract those kinds of flows, but these are not the kind of flows that are the kind of money that is going to stick around for 10 years. It's very opportunistic money that is coming to us because there's an excess liquidity issue globally. So once you get to a point where monetary policy starts to tighten offshore, that it will probably mean that money gets pulled. And we've seen that actually happen in the past week. So global financial conditions tightened in the past week as people started to get concerned about US Treasury yields going up, inflation going up in the US, and US Treasury yields started to drift higher. And as a consequence of that, we saw flows out of emerging markets. So now, in that article that I put out about a week ago, I was saying, well, you've got all this cash that's come in. Incidentally, most of that cash actually flew out over the space of about a week. So you're going to get all the money coming in, going out, coming in, going out, but it's not the kind of money we need. It's not the kind of money that is going to finance long-term investments, which is what the kind of funding that we need to attract.
Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it at that for this afternoon, but thank you for that perspective. The fact that the money is coming in, but it's certainly not the type of money that is needed to service the levels of debt that the country is currently under. That's Mamokete Lijane there, focusing on the country's purse.